This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
It has become very difficult for the U.S. President George W. Bush to get out of the quagmire he had created in Iraq, or even to adopt a new strategy to save what can be saved there. Bush described the Baker-Hamilton report as a tough assessment of the U.S. mission in Iraq. The Iraq Study Group's report states that the United States needs to change its political strategy to tackle the grave and deteriorating situation in Iraq. While they have not recommended a timetable for withdrawal, the panel says that the United States should start thinking about reducing its troops in Iraq. In addition, the report, which made 79 recommendations, focuses on the importance of seeking Iranian and Syrian help in Iraq.
التي يرأسها جيمس بيكر وزير الخارجية الأمريكي الأسبق وهو جمهوري ولي هامilton عضو الكونغرس السابق وهو
The Iraq Study Group, which is headed by the former U.S. Secretary of State James Baker, a Republican, and former U.S. Congressman Lee Hamilton, a Democrat, presented to President Bush a report on the current situation in Iraq. The report states that Bush should take a quick but an appropriate strategy to help control the deteriorating situation in Iraq. It suggests that by the first quarter of 2008, subject to unexpected developments in the security situation on the ground, all combat brigades not necessary for force protection could be out of Iraq. Meanwhile, U.S. President George Bush, who met in the White House with members of the study group for an hour, said that the report gives a tough assessment of the Iraq war, without disclosing whether he will take these recommendations into account. The report says that the U.S. should implement a comprehensive plan that will help restore security in Iraq. While not having recommended a timeline for the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Iraq, the report did state that the Iraqi forces must play a larger military role on the ground. Since the U.S.-led invasion started in March 2003, 140,000 American troops were deployed 3.5 years later, and the U.S. is still unable to provide stability and security to the Iraqi people. Amidst the deteriorating security situation, thousands of Iraqis and nearly 3,000 U.S. troops have been killed so far, and the number seems to be on the rise. Since the defeat of the Republicans in the midterm elections last November, the pressure on the Bush administration to change its policy in Iraq has indeed doubled. According to observers, Bush seems to have finally gotten the hint from the American voters, being as his strategy in Iraq needs to be amended or changed. Bush has recently indicated that he may cooperate with Iran and Syria to help restore security in Iraq. This news came after two of Bush's conservative officials, namely the former Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld and John Bolton, the U.S. ambassador to the UN, had left the team. Meanwhile, some world leaders have called on the UN to sponsor an international or regional conference on Iraq, a conference which may bring Washington, Damascus, and Tehran to the bargaining table. However, this may lead to a showdown in the U.S. Congress instigated by the conservatives.
وهو الخيار الذي قد يتحفظ عليه ما تبقى من المحافظين داخل البيت الأبيض.
The Rafah border crossing in southern Gaza was reopened today. Dozens of Palestinians who were stranded on the Egyptian side of the border crossed into Gaza. Shipments of humanitarian aid and medical supplies were also transferred into the Gaza area. Damascus-based Hamas political leader Khaled Mashal is king of the game. This according to Wadi Abu Nasser, Arab affairs expert, speaking to IBA's Eli Wagalanter. Abu Nasser said Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh has lost the support of the street.
Hamas now is losing a lot of credit in the Palestinian street, but Fatah is not smart enough, is not organized enough to benefit from it. So nowadays what my concern is that radical elements or kind of Al-Qaeda type Islamists could emerge in Gaza. Therefore, I would, if you'd ask my opinion, I would prefer Hamas, which has some head, which has some address, rather than having individual cells of terrorists and Islamists which will not be controlled by anybody.
Why do you say Hamas is losing the street?
Hamas is losing the street because many people were disappointed that Hamas came with a lot of promises for a clean administration, but there is now some signals for corruption. They claim that they will help the Palestinians going out of their economic crisis, but they helped mainly themselves. In the Iranian money which came didn't help all Palestinians. It helped mainly the Hamas or the Hamas-affiliated activists, and these are tiny minorities of the Palestinian society.
We understand that the head of the Hamas, Khania, is the prime minister. It does not have as much power as people think, that in fact everything he does is directed either through Syria and the Hamas representatives in Damascus or through their sponsor, Iran.
Yeah, I believe that the international community, and I'm sorry to say also that Israel committed a mistake by not talking to Hamas insiders immediately upon their winning in their victory in the elections. Such talk could make these Hamas more moderate and could cause a split with the outsiders. Nowadays, since those guys were isolated, they were pushed somehow to be hugged by the outsiders, and nowadays, de facto, Khalid Mash'al is the king of the game.
IBA's Dan Diker has just returned from Washington, D.C., where he met with senior sources on Middle East issues. Dan, thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Laura.
Why have the Iraq Group's findings gone beyond the original mandate to focus on Iraq?
Well, 8 months ago in March 2006, the Iraq Study Group was given the mandate to come up with a series of recommendations on Iraq. The mandate has not widened. The process, though, is quite wide, and it has been quite wide since the inception of the group. There's a political studies group. There is a strategic working group. There's a military working group, an economic working group. So the group is taking a regional look at how to approach the Iraqi problem, as opposed to the view of the administration over the last 3 years since the invasion of Iraq, which was specifically how to win the war against Iraq. And the thinking had been, whatever happens in Iraq, if success happens in Iraq, it will calm the region. The group is taking a fresh look, thinking that perhaps a calmer region will help Iraq solve its problems. Dan, what impact will that larger regional focus have on administration policy, if any? Well, there, if any, is actually a good caveat that you added, because it is unclear as to whether the administration, President Bush, at its head, is going to adopt these recommendations that are to be given in the next 45 to 50 minutes at the Hart Senate building in Washington. I will say that I met with a member of the Iraq Study Group in Washington who told me that he is quite sure that downsizing and exiting Iraq ultimately is going to be one of the goals of the administration. There's no timetable set. The other important point here about signaling some sort of change in administration policy following the findings of the Baker-Hamilton commission is that there is now really a reversal of approach. The original approach was victory in Iraq, winning the war, winning the peace, getting Saddam Hussein and the other Baathists out, and what has happened since has been the cropping up of Iran through Iraq's southern border. Iran funds and directs the Imam Mahdi army under Muqaddam al-Sadr. Iran has growing hegemonic abilities throughout the region. We saw reports earlier today that it is now destabilizing Lebanon. It has been destabilizing Lebanon. It has a hand in the Hamas in Jordan, the hand in the Hamas in the West Bank, a hand in the Hamas in Hezbollah in Gaza. So the idea is how the idea of the Iraq Study Group is how do we begin to try to dissect and compartmentalize some of these regional issues, even though they're being driven by Iranian terror, in order to try to create stability in Iraq. It is a reversal of direction, of approach to the administration's approach to Iraq for the first 3 years.
The cooling off period between the Palestinians and Israelis may soon collapse as a result of continued violations by Israel. Meanwhile, Palestinians condemn the occupation's indiscriminate measures against Palestinian prisoners, confirming that the success of any agreement depends on the release of prisoners.
Despite the Palestinians' commitment to the cooling-off period, Palestinians witnessed many Zionist violations, as tanks and bulldozers violated the sanctity of the Palestinian territory close to the border line between the Gaza Strip and occupied Palestine, or ships expelled Palestinian fishermen, preventing them from exercising their right to fish in Gaza waters. Meanwhile, a soldier in a Zionist watchtower fired at a group of school children in northern Gaza Strip, wounding some of them.
I was going to school at 6 a.m. in the morning. My friends from Safra school called me over, so I went to them. While we were standing around, gunshots targeted us from the Israeli tower. My leg was hit by a bullet. The students picked me up and took me to an ambulance.
While the Zionists threaten to resume their aggression against the Gaza Strip, Palestinians reiterate that their cooling-off period must be reciprocal and must lead to the restoration of Palestinian rights and an end to the occupation.
Therefore, we want this cooling-off period to include the West Bank, not just Gaza. We are not talking about an eternal ceasefire or even a ceasefire for 50 years. We want a ceasefire that will allow international and Palestinian efforts aimed at seriously ending the occupation to continue, not just to put an end to the siege.
Meanwhile, the relatives of Palestinian prisoners in Zionist jails, as well as a Hamas parliament committee, condemned repressive Zionist measures taken against their imprisoned sons and reiterated that the prisoners' issue is among the most important issues. They also said that any cooling-off period or agreement will not succeed without the release of prisoners from Zionist jails without preconditions, restrictions, or discrimination.
The plight of the prisoners and detainees is the main national issue, preoccupying the Palestinian people. It is a central issue for these people. It is an issue that has national consensus. No decision will be made, no issue will be settled, and no initiative will succeed without the complete release of prisoners.
Our message today is being sent to the entire world and to the Israelis. We are saying that the prisoner issue has and continues to be monitored closely by all the Palestinian people, and the Palestinians will not give up until the female and male prisoners are released from Zionist prisons.
The cooling-off period remains fragile. Palestinian factions say that the cooling-off period may collapse if it does not include the West Bank, does not stop the Zionist aggression, and does not lead to a complete restoration of Palestinian rights, starting with the release of Arab and Palestinian prisoners from Zionist jails. Mustafa Abdelhadi-Al-Alam television, outside the International Committee for the Red Cross in the Gaza Strip, Palestine.
مصدر في وزارة الداخلية الأفغانية إن 8 أشخاص.
According to a source from the Afghan Interior Ministry, 8 people were killed, including 3 foreigners, in a suicide attack that targeted an American security company in Kandahar in southern Afghanistan. Our correspondent said that 2 American soldiers were among the dead. The Afghan Interior Ministry said that the 3rd foreigner that was killed was from Nepal. This is the 3rd attack of its kind in Kandahar within 3 days.
هجوم من نوعه في قندهار في 3 أيام. ونبقى في قندهار التي.
The residents of Kandahar submitted a memorandum to the Afghan President Hamid Karzai and the NATO Command Center, demanding for them to stop foreign patrol units from entering the city during the daytime in order to save the lives of citizens who tend to get killed when these units are targeted by suicide attacks.
التي تستهدف هذه القوات.
The suicide attack that targeted a NATO unit in Kandahar city last Sunday shattered previous predictions of reaching a ceasefire agreement in the winter between Taliban fighters and Afghan and foreign forces. Signs of deteriorating security can be seen in the renewed clashes in Helmand near Kandahar.
War is war. There is no difference between winter and summer. Each side is trying to achieve its goals using its own ways. While some use war, others prefer peaceful means.
Kandahar residents believe that there is a direct correlation between the increase in the number of NATO patrol units and the increase in the number of attacks against them, which causes civilian casualties. Signs of security deterioration are also visible in the commercial and business sectors. Afghan residents submitted a memorandum to the government demanding that the NATO patrol units stop stop entering the city during the daytime.
I think that they are the reason behind these operations. In yesterday's attack, 6 civilians were killed. We demand that the foreign forces do not enter the city during daytime.
While the Americans were on their way back to their military base, they hit 3 innocent people following the attack. We demand that the Afghan government provides us with security.
According to political observers, the number of attacks that have been occurring in major cities is much less than the number of attacks that have been taking place in southern Afghanistan. They believe that removing the immediate reasons behind these attacks might be the best thing for the Afghan government to do until its security and military forces are able to control the situation there. The latest attacks show that the winter in Afghanistan will be a hot one, at least at the military level, after NATO had said that it will concentrate on the reconstruction of Afghanistan, and after the Taliban movement had said that it will resume its operations after the winter.
The opposition forces continue the sit-in in Beirut for the 5th consecutive day, demanding the formation of a national unity government, while a funeral procession was held for one of their martyrs.
يوما بعد يوم تنزع الحشود الجماهيرية التي تملأ ساحة.
Day after day, crowds of people have filled the Riyadh al-Sulh and Martyr Square to expose the obsession of the illegitimate Lebanese government to stay in power and its dependence on the West, which has the strongest influence on its policy-making process. Day after day, the Lebanese opposition showed its ability to confront challenges. They want to protect the Lebanese right for self-determination and reject the demands of the American ambassador to Lebanon, Jeffrey Feltman. He never stopped demanding that the illegitimate Lebanese government stays in power, ignoring the pleas of the Lebanese people. During an interview with Abu Dhabi television, the Lebanese president, Emil Lahoud, called for the formation of a national unity government.
This government is illegitimate, regardless of what they have been saying, and despite the support it receives from President Chirac and the US. This government has no legitimacy. The only way out, without causing problems, is for both sides to sit together and form a national unity government.
During a meeting that was headed by the former Lebanese Prime Minister Omar Karami, a solution was presented for the current situation. The president of the Islamic Labor Front, Fathi Yagan, is supposed to deliver it to the Senora government. Yagan has predicted that the proposed solution will be accepted.
أظن أنها لن ترفض من قبله ولا من قبل طبعا الأكثرية النيابية.
Truly, this initiative is very different. I think that it will not be rejected by the parliament majority. It offers a way out of the current situation and prevents Lebanon from facing a fate similar to that of Iraq, God forbid.
يعني هي خلاصة بالفعل يمكن الطروحات جميعا، يعني طروحات الأفرقاء في الساحة اللبنانية سواء هذا الفريق أو ذاك.
This initiative includes proposals that were made by the two sides. We do not care whether the initiative was made by one side or the other. What we care about is a political solution that would help everyone to get out of this dark and long tunnel until a new election law can be introduced.
Thousands of Lebanese participated in the funeral procession of the opposition's martyr. The opposition has been demanding that the government of Senora step down. The head of the Solidarity Party, Emil Rahma, gave a speech saying that a government that goes against the will of its people and violates the constitution has no legitimacy.
They do not know that a government gets a true legitimacy from the will of its people, from your will.
The former parliament member and head of the People's Movement, Najah Wakim, wondered if a government which hides behind barbed wires and allows the homeland to be attacked and the nation to lose its dignity has any legitimacy.
They want to get legitimacy from foreign embassies. We are content with our nationalistic sentiments of belonging to our homeland and the honor of belonging to our homeland. We are proud of our national identity that our homeland gives us. We ask them, where are they going next? Where are they going with the leaflets, with their drive to generate support, and with their sectarian and incitement speeches?
ومواكب التأييد والأزلام وخطب النعرات الطائفية والمذهبية إلى أين؟
The Burj Abu Haidar neighborhood witnessed yesterday clashes in an attempt to fuel sectarian tension. At around midnight last night, about 50 Hezbollah and Amal armed men were seen deployed on both sides of the Sidi Hassan Street as a bunch of people attacked Abu Ali Aitani and destroyed his shop. Abu Ali Aitani's son, who is a member of the internal security forces, was shot and injured 2 nights ago by the same group. Amnesty International Secretary General Irene Khan said it was very important that justice in Lebanon be even-handed and comprehensive, as in her words, all victims who have suffered deserve justice. In an interview with Future TV, Khan said an international tribunal to investigate political killings in Lebanon was a positive step, provided it was put in a larger context in dealing with human rights abuses. Khan proposed to the Lebanese government to ratify the International Criminal Court, as well as make changes in the national legal system. She also called for an international commission of inquiry to be launched by Amnesty International to investigate the July-August war and determine the amount of reparations.
Now, Amnesty International's position is that we do believe that a tribunal with international involvement to investigate political killings can be a positive initiative in Lebanon, providing it is put in a larger context of dealing with human rights abuses. That is why we have proposed to the government to consider ratification of the International Criminal Court, to consider modifying some of the shortcomings in the Lebanese national justice system, such as reform of the Judicial Council, such as restricting the scope of the military courts. Looking at these issues will then allow a larger number of people to get justice here. There has never been a real truth exposed about abuses that have taken place in the past. In that context, the pursuit of a limited number of political assassinations can be perceived by other people as politicization of justice. However, if the government takes the initiative to also promote ratification of the International Criminal Court, of changes in the national system, then there is a clear message that the government is interested in justice for all, and that will then help also for people to accept the notion of an international tribunal with, to examine the assassination of Mr. Hariri and others.
Day 2 of President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad's tour of the northern Iranian province of Mazandaran saw him meet folks in a number of provincial towns and cities on Wednesday.
The president told the residents of Ramsar the self-reliance of the Iranian nation is the only reason why the enemy is angry with Iranians. He underlined hegemonic powers seek to put the brakes on the progress of other nations and commit the most heinous crimes in Iraq, Afghanistan, Lebanon, Palestine, and other parts of the world under the guise of support for democracy and human rights. He underscored wherever there is war, bloodshed, and tyranny, the traces of hegemonic powers' involvement can be seen. Addressing the residents of Chalus later in the day, the president said arrogant powers are against Iran's progress because they see the brave Iranian nation as a major barrier to their expansionism. Elsewhere in his remarks, Ahmadinejad underlined that government has set in motion short-term and long-term plans to foster national development.
The
The Iraqi National Security Advisor Muwaffaq Rubai announced that leaders from the Ansar al-Sunnah organization have been arrested and said that the leader of the group manages them from Damascus. He also announced the killing of Abu Taha, the second hand to Abu Ayyub al-Masri. Rubai revealed that among those arrested were Saudi, Jordanian, Yemeni, and Syrian nationals. Some of them have been sentenced in court.
أن الأحكام القضائية قد صدرت من المحكمة الجنائية المركزية ضد الإرهابيين الذين هم من جنسيات عربية مختلفة.
The sentences were issued by the Central Criminal Court against terrorists who are citizens of different Arab countries. The Iraqi court handed down different sentences to these Saudi individuals. These are Syrians. The main leader of the Ansar al-Sunnah organization is currently residing in Syria, where he is issuing orders for terrorist acts in Iraq against our people and innocent civilians. These Syrians have been sentenced.
في العراق ضد أبناء شعبنا والمدنيين الأبرياء هؤلاء سوريون أو هؤلاء من بجنسيات سورية تم الحكم عليهم كذلك هؤلاء سوريين هؤلاء مصريين كل واحد من كل.
Similarly, these Egyptians have also been sentenced. Each individual's court sentence is written next to their photos. These are the Yemenis. These are the Jordanians. The next group is from Morocco. We have now opened a new relationship with the Syrians, and we will give our brothers in the Syrian government an opportunity to prove their good intentions.
ونعطي الفرصة إلى الأخوة أو الأخوة في الحكومة السورية من أجل إثبات حسن نيتهم.
The Italian troops in the Dhaka province have completed the transfer of security duties to the Iraqi forces. Meanwhile, Italy's defense minister Arturo Parisi expressed happiness over his troops' achievements in Iraq. Ghaith Hamid reports.
The remaining 130 Italian troops have completed their planned withdrawal from the Iraqi province of Dhaka. In addition, the Italian army has completed the transfer of security responsibility to the Iraqi forces. Meanwhile, Italy's defense minister Arturo Parisi praised his troops for a job well done in Dhaka, confirming that his government will continue to support the reconstruction efforts in Iraq.
We came here to help the Iraqi people, and it is time for us to leave. We are very happy with our troops' achievements in Dhaka, and we will continue to support the reconstruction effort in Iraq.
In a military ceremony that was attended by Iraqi military and political leaders, the Italian ambassador and the commander-in-chief of the British forces in Iraq, the Italian army transferred authority in Dhaka to the Iraqi security forces. After the Italian flag was taken down, the Iraqi flag was raised, marking the end of foreign troops in Dhaka. The head of the British Army in Iraq said that the withdrawal of multinational forces from Dhaka province will set a model for other provinces.
I have great confidence in the Iraqi government. The transfer of security duties in the Dhaka province was a good move. And I think other provinces should follow suit. We will do the same in Basra after Operation Sinbad comes to an end. Every day, the Iraqi army is gaining more experience and military capability.
The transfer of security duties to the Iraqi forces in Dhaka started to take effect on September 29, 2006. Today, the last unit of the Italian army left Dhaka province, marking the end of foreign troops there.
The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. Please visit linktv.org/Mosaic for more information about these broadcasters or to view previous Mosaic programs, obtain program transcripts, or receive the weekly Mosaic Intelligence Report. Mosaic is made possible by a grant from the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation. Additional support is provided by the Feyerdahl Foundation, the Otto Haas Charitable Trust, and by committed Link TV viewers like you. If you value this program, please send your tax-deductible contribution to Link TV, either through the website or the mailing address listed on your screen. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news, with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs which connect you to the world.